channel. Today we're going to be doing some beef recipes. I have 4 beef recipes laid out for you in this video. I hope that you enjoy them. I hope they're a blessing to you and your family. All the recipes that are in this video come from this cookbook right here, Betty Crocker's Top 100. So I'm super excited to be sharing them with you, and I hope that you enjoy them. If you're interested in this cookbook, I will leave a link in my description box. Go ahead and grab your apron and let's get started. All right, y'all, for this first one, we're going to be doing a impossibly easy cheeseburger pie, and it is what it is. It is super easy to make. Right here, I am just grounding up some beef, and I'm going to add in about a cup of chopped onions that I had already prepared, and I'm just mixing that together until everything is nice and cooked through. I will drain the grease, anything excess, and then I'm just going to put it into this pie plate. I didn't grease it or anything like that. I didn't really feel like it needed to. And when I was done, everything came off the pie just fine. So you really don't need to grease this by spraying it with any nonstick spray. So I just put all of my beef and onions at the very bottom here. And just kind of make sure everything's nice and level. And then we're going to get started in a separate bowl. I just did like a medium-sized bowl, and I'm going to whisk together about half a cup of Bisquick with 1 cup of milk, 2 eggs, half a teaspoon of salt, and then 1 cup of cheddar cheese. And I'm just going to whisk that through, and then I'm just going to pour that on top of my pie plate. What's great about this meal is that you can actually make this into a breakfast meal by exchanging out the hamburger beef for some sausage or for some bacon and adding in some different type of vegetables in it. This would make a really good quiche by using the Bisquick, milk, and egg mixture. But what we're going to do now is we're going to heat the oven to 400 degrees, and we're going to cook this for about 23 minutes until everything is nice and cooked through and it's got like a lovely golden brown color on top. And this is good with like a salad, with maybe some vegetables. But this was so easy to throw together. This is definitely something that you can do throughout the week if you're in a hurry and you just need something on the table super fast. It's super cheesy, absolutely delicious. Next, I'm going to be making a meatloaf, which I actually hardly ever just make meatloaf. I usually end up making meatballs just because that's just the way we've always made them, but I was excited to try out some regular traditional meatballs. So I am going to use 1.5 pounds of ground beef, and then I use 3 loaves of bread that I just finely cut up. And then I have 1 cup of milk, a tablespoon of whatsoever sauce is what I call it, half a teaspoon of salt, a half a teaspoon of ground mustard, 1/4 a teaspoon of pepper, an egg that has already been beaten, and then I do put in about 1/4 a cup of onion, and then we're going to put some ketchup on top. But first, we're going to go ahead and mix this all together and just kind of make sure everything is combined properly and it's to the consistency that you want. All the onions and the eggs are mixed through, and then you're going to put this in a loaf pan. I actually don't really have like one of those wider loaf pans, so I went ahead and put it in this 8x8 baking dish, and it turned out to be perfectly fine. And I was kind of concerned how runny it was when I put it in the loaf pan, but it turned out phenomenal. It was very tender, so if you think that it's kind of on the runny side, it's probably perfect. And then I just had, you can use ketchup or you can use barbecue sauce. We just kind of prefer barbecue sauce, so that's what I put on top here. I put about 1/2 cup of barbecue sauce, or you can kind of mix a little bit of barbecue sauce with the ketchup. That's what I have done in the past as well. And then I'm going to put this in the oven at 350 degrees, and I think I put it in there for about an hour. And this is what it looks like when it's all done. It was so delicious. It fed my family of 6 perfectly. We paired it with some mashed potatoes and some peas. Okay, this next one is going to be a slow cooker lasagna. And I'm going to tell you right now, I was very skeptic about putting lasagna in a crock pot, but it turned out so good. It was very delicious. So here I am just going to ground up a pound of Italian sausage. And you can use Italian sausage, you can use breakfast sausage, you can use hamburger beef, whichever that you prefer. I think next time I probably will use hamburger beef. I don't know. It was just different. So I think it turned out fine, but I think I definitely prefer the hamburger beef. And so I'm just grinding up this sausage here, and I'm going to put in half a cup of onions to go with it. And I'm just going to brown this up until everything is nice and tender and the ground or the Italian sausage is cooked through properly. And I'm going to put in 2 cups of Italian style tomato sauce. And then I'm going to put in some seasoning. So I put in 2 teaspoons of dried basil, half a teaspoon of salt. And I'm just going to go ahead and give that a good stir. Once everything is stirred through, I'm just going to leave this on the burner for just a little bit, just until it's at like a very mild simmer. And then I will take it off the pot, and then we are going to get started on our cheese mixture, and then we're going to put it in the slow cooker. Now in our medium bowl, we're going to put in a whole container, so about 15-16 ounces of ricotta cheese. And then I'm going to add 3 cups of mozzarella cheese to that, and then 1 cup of Parmesan cheese. And then I'm just going to kind of mix that up, get everything combined properly. Okay, now to our slow cooker. You're definitely going to want to spray this with some type of olive oil spray, just any type of spray that you have, or I would definitely recommend getting like a slow cooker liner, because it's very prone to just kind of burn at the bottom. So you really want to make sure that you spray it really well. And then we're going to put about 1/4 of our beef mixture here at the very bottom. And then we're just going to layer this with some noodles and then with our cheese. And then we're just going to keep repeating the process until everything is gone. And you'll want to cook this on the low setting for about 6 hours. And I just kind of checked it after 6 hours just to make sure everything was cooked through and the noodles were nice and tender. So for me, it took about 6 hours and everything was nice and tender. And I will show you what it looks like when it's all done. It was very delicious. You guys are going to want to make this. It is so good. And I love how easy it is in the slow cooker. And I have really never made lasagna before, so I was kind of unsure about making it in the slow cooker, but it was so good. So you guys have to try this. Okay, now that the 6 hours are up, this is what it kind of looks like. And if it seems kind of thick on the top or the noodles aren't cooking properly, you can add some water on top just to make sure that the noodles are getting cooked through properly. And then I just added some mozzarella cheese on top of that just to get it nice and cheesy on top. And this is what it looks like when it's completely done. It was so good. Absolutely delicious. Everybody loved it. You could pair it with some salad and vegetables, or maybe some breadsticks would be delicious as well. Okay, for this last recipe, we're actually going to be making some Swedish meatballs. So I'm going to use the other half of that pound of ground beef that we used earlier. And then I'm going to use a whole pound of this ground pork. And then I'm going to add in about half a cup of onions, and then half a cup of milk, 3/4 a cup of breadcrumbs. Goodness, I could not talk. And then 2 tablespoons of fresh, or you can use dried parsley, whatever you have on hand. 1 teaspoon of whatsoever sauce, half a teaspoon of salt, and then 1/8 teaspoon of pepper, but usually I like to add more. So I think I did 1/4 teaspoon of pepper. And then 1 egg. And we're just going to kind of mix that up. I like to use gloves just because I don't like to get my hands all, I don't know, nasty and gross in it. So I'm just mixing this up, and then we're going to form it into balls. And I'm just going to put this in a large mixing bowl. And I'm going to toss it in the fridge for a little bit, probably about I don't know, 3 or 4 hours, something like that, just until it is dinner time and it's closer to dinner time. And then I'm gonna get started on frying everything, and you will see this sauce that I'm gonna make for this meal is so good. You have to wait to see what this sauce looks like. If y'all have seen any of my videos before, you know I love to cook with my cast iron skillet. If you're interested in the type of cast iron skillet that I'm using, I will link it in my description box. But I absolutely adore cast iron skillets. I think it cooks it so much better. Everything is so much more flavorful. So if you are not cooking with a cast iron, you really should. It is so good, and it's easy. The cleanup is easy as well. So I'm just cooking these up, just kind of turning them periodically. I think this process all in all took about 10 to 15 minutes just to get everything cooked through. And then when they're done cooking, I just put it in this bowl. And then I'm going to toss everything in the bowl because I'm going to use this cast iron skillet to go ahead and make my gravy. So I'm just kind of getting all the bits and pieces off. I don't really want to cook with that. So I'm just going to put this in a bowl for right now. And then I'm going to, I'm still going to use this grease. I don't want to waste any of that grease, but I am going to go ahead and add some butter to it. So I do go ahead and add about 1/4 cup of butter to this, and I'm just going to melt it down and just kind of work with it to kind of get the butter all melted down. And I'm going to kind of whisk it as I'm going, kind of scraping up those bits, those like meatball bits as well. And then I'm going to add in 1/4 cup of flour once that butter has melted and get that mixed through properly. And then I'm going to add in my seasoning. So I have about 1 teaspoon of paprika that I'm going to add to it, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, which you can actually add probably closer to 1/2 teaspoon of salt because the gravy wasn't as salty as I wanted it to be. And then you're going to add in 1/4 teaspoon of pepper. And then I just mix that through just to kind of get the seasonings mixed through properly. And then I have 2 cups of water that I'm just going to slowly add to this. And you're just going to add in just a little bit at a time. And then once everything is nice and thick, I went ahead and added in my sour cream. I have about, the recipe calls for 3/4 cup of sour cream. But you can definitely add in a little bit more than that. I think if I were to do it over again, I'd add in just a little bit more sour cream just to give it that sour cream taste to it. It wasn't as like white as I'm kind of used to, so I'm wondering if maybe me adding sour cream to it would have been better. But here I'm just going to stir it and get it nice and thick, And then once everything is thick and the sour cream has been added, I just add in my meatballs and it's done. Okay, and then now I'm just going to go ahead and add in my meatballs, just get them cooking a little bit more and kind of roll them around in the sauce a bit. And they can simmer on the stovetop for probably another 10 minutes while I'm cooking my egg noodles. I do serve this with some egg noodles. Now you can serve this with mashed potatoes or rice, whatever is, your preference. For this meal, we kind of go back and forth between mashed potatoes or like egg noodles when I make Swedish meatballs. So here you can see I'm just adding in about 2 cups of egg noodles that I had on hand, and I'm just going to cook that up and make them al dente, and that's it. Everything is good to go. I did serve this up with some corn, and the meatballs were very flavorful. I absolutely adored the meatballs. The gravy was very different. It's not the same as what I used to making when I make Swedish meatballs. So if you're looking for something different, this would be a very good option. It was still so delicious. So you've got to try this recipe. I know that you'll enjoy it. Thanks so much for watching this video. I hope that you found a new recipe for you and your family, and subscribe on your way out so you don't miss any new videos. And I'll see you in the next one.